The village of Karayazi had not slept properly for days. From one end of the dusty road to the other, homes were dressed in color. Woven rugs hung over wooden rails, copper bowls gleamed in the sun, and strings of fabric fluttered like restless thoughts in the wind. The air carried the smell of baked bread, roasted meat, and anticipation. A wedding was coming, and in Karayazi, weddings were not private affairs. They belonged to everyone. At the center of it all was Aylin. She sat on a low wooden stool inside her mother's house, still and quiet, as women moved around her like a tide. Hands adjusted her veil, fingers tightened coral beads around her neck. Someone smoothed her hair, someone else whispered prayers she had heard her entire life. Aylin did not respond. She never did. She had been born with a voice, but illness had taken it when she was young. Some said it was fate, others said it was a test. Over time, people stopped wondering and simply labeled her the silent girl. As she grew older, the label grew heavier until it followed her like a shadow. To many in Karayazi, silence meant emptiness. But inside Aylin, there was nothing empty at all. Her thoughts were sharp. Her emotions were loud. Her memories crowded her chest, pressing against her ribs as if searching for a way out. She felt everything deeply: joy, shame, fear, longing, but had learned to carry it alone. As the women worked, Aylin's eyes drifted toward the open doorway. Outside, the village moved with excitement. Children ran past in bursts of laughter. Men argued playfully over seating arrangements. Somewhere, a drum was tested, its deep sound rolling across the earth. The drumbeat settled inside her stomach. Today, she would become Kamran's wife. Kamran was kind. That much was true. He had never mocked her silence, never spoken over her, never treated her like something broken. But kindness did not erase uncertainty. She had seen hesitation in his eyes before, especially when elders spoke about marriage and responsibility. A wife, they said, must speak for her household. A wife must answer disputes. A wife must guide children with her words. No one ever said what happened when a wife had none. Aylin lowered her gaze to her hands. They were slim, steady, and strong. These hands had worked fields, kneaded dough, carried water, and soothed crying children. They had also learned another language, one without sound: movement. When Aylin was younger, she had discovered that motion gave shape to feelings words never could. When she was angry, her body stiffened. When she was joyful, it softened. When she was afraid, it shook. Over time, those movements became intentional, rhythmic, expressive. Her grandmother had once watched her sway to distant drums and whispered, "Your body remembers what your mouth cannot say." That memory returned now, uninvited. "Aylin," her mother said softly, kneeling before her, "you are beautiful." Aylin met her eyes. In them she saw pride mixed with regret, love mixed with guilt. Her mother had spoken for her entire life, answered questions, made decisions, accepted arrangements, including this marriage. Aylin had not resisted, but not because she agreed, because she had never been asked how. Outside, Kamran stood among the men, dressed in traditional attire, his posture straight but his thoughts uneasy. He listened as elders joked about his future, about patience, about learning to live with a quiet woman. "Silence can be peaceful," another man laughed. "Or heavy," another replied. Kamran said nothing. He remembered the way Aylin looked at him sometimes, direct, intense, full of things unsaid. It unsettled him more than shouting ever could. He wondered what she carried behind those eyes. He wondered if marriage would trap her or free her. As the hour approached, the drums grew louder, the village gathered, rituals began, blessings were spoken. Each step followed tradition with careful precision. Aylin was led outside. The moment her feet touched the earth, something shifted. The ground felt firm beneath her soles, as if anchoring her. The drums pulsed through the air, through her bones. Each beat echoed a question she had never been allowed to answer. Who are you if you cannot speak? She stood before everyone, elders, family, strangers, and felt their expectations settle on her shoulders. She saw curiosity, doubt, sympathy, judgment. No one expected anything from her. That was the most painful part. The ceremony continued until an elder paused and spoke words that sliced through the air. "A woman must be heard in her home," he said. "Let us hope this union does not lack guidance." The crowd murmured. Aylin's breath caught. Something inside her rose, slow, fierce, undeniable. The drums did not stop, and for the first time in her life, Aylin stepped forward. The step Aylin took was small, but it carried the weight of years. For a moment, no one reacted. The elder's words still hung in the air, thick and uncomfortable. The drums continued their rhythm, steady and ancient, as if unaware that something inside the ceremony had cracked open. Aylin stood slightly ahead of where she was meant to be. Tradition did not account for this. Her mother's breath caught. One of the women reached out instinctively, then stopped herself. Kamran turned fully toward Aylin, surprise flickering across his face before settling into something deeper, concern, perhaps, or curiosity. Aylin did not look at him yet. Her eyes moved across the gathering, taking in faces she had known all her life, faces that had spoken about her, for her, over her, faces that had decided who she was without ever hearing her. She felt exposed, but not weak. Inside her chest, emotions collided, fear pressing hard against resolve, doubt brushing against a stubborn sense of dignity. She reminded herself to breathe, slowly, fully, the way she had learned when emotions threatened to spill over with no sound to carry them away. The elder cleared his throat, unsettled. "Bride," he said, softer now, "stand where you are meant to stand." Aylin heard him. Of course she did. Silence had never made her unaware. If anything, it had sharpened her attention, trained her to read the smallest shifts in tone, posture, expression. She did not move back. Instead, she lifted her hands. It was not dramatic, not sudden, just deliberate. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some thought she was confused. Others assumed fear had finally overwhelmed her. A few women exchanged uneasy glances, recognizing something familiar in the tightness of her jaw, the steadiness of her spine. Kamran took a step forward, then stopped himself. He sensed that interrupting this moment, whatever it was, would be a mistake. Aylin closed her eyes. In the darkness behind her lids, memories rose uninvited. She saw herself as a child, sitting apart while other children argued and laughed. She remembered the frustration of being spoken over, the ache of wanting to explain and being unable to. She remembered the pitying looks, the lowered voices, the way people simplified her into something harmless and small. She remembered learning to move instead. At first, it had been instinct, a sway when she felt overwhelmed, a tightening of her shoulders when anger pressed against her ribs. Over time, those movements gained structure, shaped by observation and repetition. She watched dancers at festivals, memorized rhythms, practiced alone when no one was watching. Movement had become her language. The drums seemed to sense her intention. Their rhythm deepened, slowed, grounded. It was not planned, it was felt. Aylin opened her eyes. She let her hands fall to her sides, then lifted one arm slowly, tracing a curve through the air. her wrist bent, fingers spreading as if releasing something held too long. Her other arm followed, mirroring and then diverging, creating tension between restraint and freedom. Some guests leaned forward without realizing it. This was not entertainment. It did not resemble the celebratory dances expected at weddings. There was no smile on Aylin's face, no flirtation in her movement. What unfolded before them was raw and unpolished, heavy with meaning. She stepped forward again, feet pressing firmly into the earth, her shoulders hunched, her movements tightening, shrinking inward. She wrapped her arms around herself, her body folding as if carrying an invisible burden. The women closest to her felt their throats tighten. They recognized that posture. They had worn it themselves, at different times, in different ways. Aylin's movements grew sharper now. She shook her head slowly, then faster, as if refusing something imposed upon her. Her feet stamped once, twice, sending small clouds of dust into the air. Each stamp echoed defiance, though no sound left her lips. The elder shifted uncomfortably. "This is not part of the rite," he muttered, but his voice lacked authority. He could not look away. Kamran's heart pounded. He had never seen Aylin like this. He realized with a sudden clarity that unsettled him how little he truly knew about her inner world. He had mistaken quiet for calm, stillness for simplicity. He was wrong. Aylin turned then, slowly, until she faced him. Their eyes met. For a brief, fragile moment, the world narrowed to the space between them. Aylin's expression softened, her movements slowing. She extended one hand toward him, palm open, then hesitated. Her hand trembled slightly before she pulled it back, pressing it to her chest. The gesture was clear. "I am afraid. I want connection. I am unsure if I will be met halfway." Kamran swallowed hard. Without thinking, he placed his hand over his own chest, mirroring her movement. It was small, almost invisible, but Aylin saw it. Something eased inside her. The drums shifted again, responding to the change. Aylin straightened. Her movements grew wider, stronger. Her arms cut through the air with purpose now, her steps more confident, more grounded. She spun once, fabric flaring around her, not in celebration, but in declaration. This was not a plea, it was a statement. The crowd watched in stunned silence, slowly realizing that this was not a disruption of tradition, it was a confrontation with it, and Aylin was only beginning.